Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Kirivana Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Kirivana Dari Yashoda Nandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajadana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Kirivana Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Kirivana Dari Yashoda Nandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajadana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashoda Nandana Brajadana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajadana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Prevrajakacharya Astotarasata Sri Sriman, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prevrajakacharya Astotarasata Sri Sriman, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinamacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Sitanath Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're going to be speaking about Lord Balarama. Next weekend, Giriraj Maharaj is coming down from Santa Barbara, and he will also lecture on the appearance of Balarama. So I thought, well, I better talk to him first. So I emailed him, and he gave me an outline of what he was going to speak about. So I'm going to try and avoid what he's going to speak about. So perhaps today we'll wet your whistle a little bit. Certainly hearing from Maharaj will be superior to what you'll hear tonight. But we are going to be reading directly from Krishna book a little bit and from Bhagavad Gita. So that should be nourishing. Is there anyone here that's never been to a Hare Krishna temple before? It's one brahmachari. Anyone that's not familiar with the philosophy? Okay, so kind of an intimate crowd, maybe. So one might ask, what is the Hare Krishna movement about? What are we doing here? Because it seems like it's a very repetitive affair, right? Some people complain, you sing the same song all the time. And then we answer back, well, we have the different melodies, and we have different mantras, But here Krishna explains why. This is Bhagavad Gita, text 34. Man manabhava mad bhakto madhyaji mang namaskuru mamaivashasi yuktaivam atmana mat prayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So that's the thing. That's what we're doing. We want to become so absorbed in thinking of Krishna that at the time of death, if we're completely absorbed in Krishna, we'll go to Krishna, wherever he is. wherever he is. One time I was challenged. The man said, he's like one question after the other, stump the theist, right? So I was ready for him. And he got to the question, so where do you go then? Your ultimate goal is to be reunited with Krishna. So where's that? I said, well, the spiritual world. He goes, where's that? I said, that's wherever Krishna is. But where's that? I said, wherever he is. Wherever he is. And it doesn't matter to me where he is. I just want to be with him. And then he quieted down. That was it. No more questions. I don't think he'd heard it answered like that before. We don't really care if it's Godhead or Bhumi Loka or, the advanced devotee. He's like, heaven or hell, I don't care as long as I'm engaged in your service. I don't even have to be personally with you. Just please give me devotional service, because I know that's where I want to be. I want to be connected with you either personally or in somehow. In the association of devotees, doing service, it doesn't matter. So, every year we have this appearance of Balaram. We get an opportunity to hear his pastimes, hear his activities, what he does when he comes here. And, if you're the brother of God, it's expected that there's going to be some magic. There's going to be some drama. There's going to be some extraordinary activities. This is another thing. People just can't wrap their brains around the activities of Krishna and Balarama and his associates and all of Krishna's incarnations and expansions. It's like, you can't grasp it. We narrate these stories. Srila Prabhupada writes these books and we distribute them all over the world in so many languages. And some people get it. Some people are like, oh my God, this is amazing. And other people are like, you got to be kidding me. According to their past pious and impious activities, they come into this world, into this body, into this family, whatever family they're born into, whatever country, whatever town, village, neighborhood, and they bring with them a certain amount of ability to understand, ability to receive. So here, one of the first pastimes where Lord Balarama was really playing kind of a central character, if you will, is the chapter 15 in Krishna book, the killing of Dhenukasura. So this is a pastime where the cowherd boys, they're feeling a little despondent. They want to go into this forest of palm trees. They're just loaded with fruit. It's the Talavan. Van means forest, so Vrindavan is the forest of Vrinda, Tulsi Devi. That's what Vrindavan is, the forest of Tulsi Devi, Vrindavan. This is Talavan. This is a forest of palm trees, heavy with fruit, and the aroma is so intoxicating that they're just, they want to go there so bad. But it so happens that there's a group of donkeys or asses that are lording it over this forest. They won't let anybody in. Not even the animals and birds go in there. They're so afraid of these donkeys, these asses. And so the cowherd boys, they petition Krishna and Balaram, because they've already witnessed them killing so many demons. First of all, there was, one of the first ones was Putana. Krishna was just a baby. And then after Putna, there was Trinavarta. And then so many leading up to Dhenukasura. And at this time, they're just coming into their 6th age. And I'll just read you a little something. At this time, all the cowherd men conferred and agreed to give those boys who had passed their 5th year charge of the cows and the pasturing ground. Given charge of the cows, Krishna and Balaram traversed Vrindavan, purifying the land with their lotus footprints. So up until this point, they're in the Komara stage, which is up to 5 years. Then past 5 years, between 6 and 10, becomes the next section, or next period of the next age group. And at this age group, they are given the well, in the Komara Lila, they're only given responsibility over the calves. But in the Poganda age group, that's between 6 and 10, now they're given responsibility of the grown-up cows. So it's like a, I don't know, like a graduation, you could say. They're given more responsibility. You know, you're a big boy now. You know, there's so many standards there when you get to the big boy. You know, you can do things all by yourself. Take more responsibility. So, accompanied by the cowherd boys and Balaram, Krishna brought forward the cows and played on his flute as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, which was full of flowers, vegetables, and pasturing grass. The Vrindavan forest was as sanctified as the clear mind of a devotee and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. There were chirping birds and clear water lakes with waters that could revive one of all fatigue. Sweet-smelling breezes blew always, refreshing the mind and body. Krishna, and with his friends, and Balaram entered the forest, and seeing the favorable situation, desired to enjoy the atmosphere to the fullest extent. Krishna saw all the trees overloaded with fruits and fresh twigs bending down to touch the ground as if welcoming him by touching his lotus feet. He was very pleased by the behavior of the trees, fruits, and flowers, and he began to smile, realizing their desires. Krishna then spoke to his elder brother, Balaram, as follows. My dear brother, you are superior to all of us, and your lotus feet are worshipped by the demigods. Just see how these trees, full of fruits and flowers, have bent down to worship your lotus feet. It appears that they are trying to get out of the darkness that has obliged them to accept the form of trees. Actually, the trees born in the land of Vrindavan are not ordinary living entities. Having held the impersonal point of view in their past lives, they have been put into this stationary condition of life. But now they have the opportunity of seeing you in Vrindavan, and that they are praying for further advancement in spiritual life through your personal association. So I often wondered, how is it that devotees became devotees from reading Krishna book? You know, they didn't know anything about God, and then all of a sudden there's Krishna book describing the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But here, Srila Prabhupada throws in some philosophy, some explanation about, why things are the way they are and how to get free. He does that throughout the whole Krishna book. So by the time you end up, finishing the book, you can be pretty convinced that, hey, this is for me. This is how I can get out of this entanglement, this material world. And I have this knowledge now, and I'm really excited. And so people were joining just from reading Krishna book. All generally living entities in the mode of darkness obtain the bodies of trees. The impersonalist philosophers are in that darkness, but they eradicate it by taking full advantage of your presence. I think that the drones, the bees, are buzzing all around you must have been devotees in their previous lives. They cannot leave your company because no one can be better, more affectionate master than you. You are the supreme and original personality of Godhead, and the drones are just trying to spread your glories by chanting at every moment. Back to that initial verse from Bhagavad Gita, right? Man manabhava man bhakto. I think some of them must be great sages, devotees of your lordship, and they are disguising themselves in the form of drones because they are unable to give your company even for a moment. Give up your company for even a moment. My dear brother, you are the supreme worshipable Godhead. Just see how the peacocks are dancing before you in great ecstasy. The deer, whose behavior is just like that of the gopis, are welcoming you with the same affection. And the cuckoos, who are residing in this forest, are welcoming you with their joyful, sweet cries, because they consider that your appearance in their home is so auspicious. Even though they are trees and animals, these residents of Vrindavan are glorifying you. They are prepared to welcome you to the best of their ability as the practice of great souls in receiving another great soul at home. As for the land, it is so pious and fortunate because the footprints of your lotus feet are making its body. Marking its body. Must be something wrong with my glasses, right? It's quite natural for these Vrindavan inhabitants to thus receive a great personality like you. The herbs, creepers, and plants are also so fortunate to touch your lotus feet. And by your touching the twigs with your fingernails, these small plants are also made glorious. As for the hills and rivers, they too are now glorious because you are glancing at them. Above all, the damsels of Braja, the gopis, are the most glorious because you embrace them with your strong arms, being attracted by their beauty. In this way, Lord Krishna and Balarama began to enjoy the residents of Vrindavan to their full satisfaction as they herded the calves and cows on the bank of the Yamuna. In some places, Krishna and Balarama are accompanied by their friends. The boys were singing, imitating the humming sounds of the drones and accompanying Krishna and Balarama, who were garlanded with forest flowers, while marking the boys sometimes. While walking, the boys sometimes imitated the quacking sounds of the swans in the lakes. Or when they saw the peacocks dancing, they imitated them before Krishna. Krishna also moved his neck, imitating the dancing and making his friends laugh. So you can see how easy it is to become absorbed in thinking of Krishna and his activities. The cows taken care of by Krishna had different names, and Krishna would call them with love. After hearing Krishna calling, the cows would immediately respond by mooing, and the boys would enjoy this exchange to their heart's content. They would all imitate the sound vibrations made by the different kinds of birds, especially the chakoras, peacocks, cuckoos, and bhardwajas. Sometimes, when they would see the weaker animals fleeing out of fear of the sounds of tigers and lions, the boys, along with Krishna and Balarama, would imitate the animals and run away with them. When they felt some fatigue, they would sit down, and Balarama would put his head on the lap of one of the boys just to take rest. And Krishna would immediately come and begin massaging the legs of Balarama. And sometimes he would take a palm fan and fan the body of Balarama, causing a pleasing sensation, a pleasing breeze to relieve him of his fatigue. Other boys would sit, sometimes dance or sing while Balarama took rest, and sometimes they would wrestle amongst themselves or jump. When the boys were thus engaged, Krishna would immediately join them, and catching their hands, he would enjoy their company and laugh and praise their activities. When Krishna would feel tired and fatigued, he would sometimes take shelter of the root of a big tree or the lap of a cowherd boy and lay down. When he would lie down with a boy or a root as his pillow, some of the boys would come and massage his legs, and some would fan his body with a fan made from palm leaves. Some of the more talented boys would sing in very sweet voices to please him. Thus, very soon his fatigue would go away. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whose legs are tended by the goddess of fortune, shared himself with the cowherd boys as one of them, expanding his internal potency to appear exactly like a village boy. But despite his appearing just like a village boy, there were occasions when he proved himself to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes men pose themselves as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and cheat innocent people. But they can only cheat. They cannot exhibit the potency of God. And so, sometimes these people come along and we run into them while we're doing our natural, everyday preaching engagements. Sometimes we come upon these cheaters and we expose them. We don't back away. They make their statements and we fire back. And we defeat them and try to expose them, even in public. We have to make sure that the people get the right idea. While Krishna was thus engaged in his transcendental pastimes, exhibiting his internal potency in the company of the supermost fortunate cowherd boys, there occurred another chance for him to exhibit his superhuman powers of Godhead. His most intimate friends, Sridham, Subal, and Stoka Krishna, addressed Krishna and Balaram with great love and affection thus: "Dear Balaram, you are very powerful. Your arms are very strong. Dear Krishna, you are very expert in killing all kinds of disturbing demons. Will you kindly note that just near this place there is a big forest of the name Talavan. This forest is full of palm trees, and all these trees are filled with fruits. Some have fallen down, and some of them are very ripe, even in the trees. It is a very nice place, but because of a great demon, Dhenukasura, it is very difficult to go there. No one can reach the trees to collect the fruits. Dear Krishna and Balaram, this demon is present there in the form of an ass, and he is surrounded by similar demon friends who have assumed the same shape." So these demons, they're able to assume different forms. Just like in the story we'll read a little bit from in a minute, Pralambasura. He assumed the form of a cowherd boy to infiltrate the cowherd boys playing in the pasturing grounds there. But later on, he assumed a much bigger form, just within minutes. So they have this kind of potency. All of them are very strong, so it is very difficult to approach this place. Dear brothers, you are the only persons who can kill such demons. Other than you, no one can go there for fear of being killed. Not even animals go there, and no birds are living there. They have all left. One can only appreciate the sweet aroma that is coming from that place. It appears that up until now, no one has tasted the sweet fruits there, even on the tree or on the ground. Dear Krishna, to tell you frankly, we are very attracted by the sweet aroma. Dear Balaram, if you like, let us go there and enjoy these fruits. The aroma of the fruits is now spread everywhere. Don't you smell it from here?" While Balaram and Krishna were thus petitioned by their intimate friends, they were inclined to please them, and with smiling faces they proceeded towards the forest surrounded by all their friends. Immediately upon entering the Talavan, Balaram began to yank one of the trees with his arms, exhibiting the strength of an elephant. Because of this jerking, all the ripe fruits fell down to the ground. Upon hearing the sound of the falling fruits, the demon Dhenukasura, who was living there in the form of an ass, approached with great force, striking the whole field so that all the trees moved as if there was an earthquake. The demon appeared before Balaram and kicked his chest with his hind legs. Wow. So that's pretty offensive, right? Well, think about it. Here's this ass running up, and in order for him to kick him with his hind legs, he has to turn around, showing his rear end to Balaram. That's just the beginning of it, though, right? He's got his rear end towards Balaram, which, probably not very. Yeah, he's a donkey. The rear end of a donkey is probably not the most attractive end. But that's what he's got to do to be able to kick him. You've seen horses kicking? They do it with their back legs, right? I remember seeing some little video clip. There's this man, he thinks he has this horse all corralled up, and he's got this branding iron, right? So he thinks this is good to go, right? So he's coming up from behind this horse with this red-hot branding iron, and he's getting closer. Finally, the horse lifts his foot out of the corral and just kicks him. And it happens fast. And all you see is this guy he gets kicked right in the chest, and you just see him moving backward. His body's moving backward first, and his arms and legs, he's standing up like this, but then he's just like this, going backward. And then you can't see him in the picture anymore, but he gets out of that picture so fast. And it's a full-grown man. And that's just one leg. Just one leg of the horse. Balaram's being kicked with both legs at once. When Balaram and Krishna were thus... Oh, wait a second. Where am I? Okay, here we go. The demon appeared before Balaram and kicked his chest with his hind legs. At first, Balaram did not say anything. But with great anger, the demon kicked him again, more vehemently. So this, demons generally... I'm sure he's used to a much greater success than what just happened. Balaram wasn't even fazed. He was still standing there, erect, not fazed one bit. And he's not even saying anything. He's just standing there. He didn't lose his wind. Nothing happened. So now he's very angry. He comes back again. This time, Balaram immediately caught hold of the legs of the ass demon with one hand. Both legs with one hand. All right, we're thinking, how do you get both with one hand? To grab one of them's got to be hard enough. Well, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's Ananta Shesh. All the universes are being supported by his hoods. And now, there's a little donkey in front of him. He catches him with one hand by both legs. And then he starts wheeling him around like this, wheeling him around. He threw him into the treetop. These are tall palm trees full of fruit. While he was being wheeled around by Balaram, the demon lost his life. Balaram threw the demon into the biggest palm tree about. And the demon's body was so heavy that the palm tree fell upon other trees, and several fell down. It appeared as if a great hurricane had passed through the forest. Somebody say hurricane? And all the trees were falling down, one after the other. This exhibition of extraordinary strength is not astonishing because Balaram is a Supreme Personality of Godhead known as Ananta Sheshanag, who is holding all the planets on the hoods of his millions of heads. He maintains the whole cosmic manifestation exactly as horizontal and vertical threads hold the weaving of a cloth. After the demon had been thrown into the trees, all the friends and associates of Dhenuka immediately, what did they do? They ran in fear, right? No, they didn't. They're not that smart. They immediately assembled and attacked Balarama and Krishna with great force. They were determined to retaliate and avenge the death of their friend. This is a common theme. You'll see this over and over, that somebody will come, he'll be defeated, he'll go back, his friends will pick him back up, encourage him to go back out and try again. Or, they get knocked down, but then they'll just come back. There's another pastime we'll read where this big gorilla, he's just picking up trees to hit Balarama with him until there are no more trees in the forest. Yeah, Devivida. There's no R in Devivida. So I'm wondering, now that you mention it, I mean, you're Dravida. Is there any connection? Huh? Well, Dravida and Devivida, they're different personalities, right? Devivida. Okay. To be continued. They were determined to retaliate and avenge the death of their friend. But Krishna and Balarama caught each of the asses by the hind legs and exactly as the same way wheeled them around. Thus they killed all of them and threw them into the palm trees. Because of the dead bodies of the asses, and they were of all different colors. They weren't just, gray donkeys. They're special. Just for Krishna's Leela. Thus they killed all of them and threw them into the palm trees. Because of the dead bodies of the asses, there was a panoramic scene. It appeared as if clouds of various colors were assembled in the trees. Hearing of this great incident, the demigods from the higher planets showered flowers on Krishna and Balarama and beat their drums and offered devotional prayers. A few days after the killing of Dhenukasura, people began to come into the Talavan forest to collect the fruits, and animals began to return without fear and feed on the nice grasses growing there. Just by chanting or hearing these transcendental activities and pastimes of the brothers of Krishna and Balarama, one can amass pious activities. The Hare Krishna movement is so auspicious. Everything we read, everything we do, all the sound vibrations, the things we smell, the flowers, the incense, it all just adds to our purification and brings us closer to reawakening our dormant love for Krishna and Balarama. It's already there. It just has to be, all the contaminations just have to be cleared away. So we're like in amnesia. And these are all clues to our past relationship with Krishna. So as we go on in this process, the chanting of Hare Krishna just becomes more and more sweet. And then we get realizations that are coming from Krishna. He's the source of all knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So he's reciprocating. And it's said that with every step we take towards Krishna, he's taking 10 towards us. That's how rapid this whole thing's happening. The next pastime is subduing the Kaliya serpent, but that mainly involves Krishna. We're trying to get familiar with Balarama and his pastime. We're just going to focus on Balarama today. Krishna's older brother. He's not older by too much. Just a few. Dravida, how much older is Balarama than Krishna? A year older? Not much older. And Subhadra and Krishna are very close together, right, in age, I think. So, this next incident, the killing of Pralambasura. Now in this pastime, it's mentioned here that Krishna and Balarama have not had the hair-cutting ceremony. Now, if memory serves me, when Krishna was born that morning, the celebrations were subdued because they didn't want to, draw attention to Krishna's birth, because they felt like Kamsa is going to be alerted and he's going to come here. And so is it the same thing with this haircutting ceremony? It was put off to further years because in this pastime, they're out in the pasturing grounds and they're playing all these games, so they must be older. At the time for hair cutting ceremony, usually after 1 year, somewhere in there. Anyway. There's a nice description of Vrindavan here. Let's read and find out more about Vrindavan. After extinguishing the devastating fire, which is another pastime of Krishna, surrounded by his relatives, friends and cows, calves and bulls, and glorified by his friends singing, again entered Vrindavan, which is always full of cows. While Krishna and Balaram were enjoying life in Vrindavan in the midst of the cowherd boys and girls, the season gradually changed to summer. The summer season in India is not very much welcome because of the excessive heat, but in Vrindavan everyone was pleased because summer there appeared just like spring. And this was possible only because Lord Krishna and Balaram, who are the controllers even of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, were residing there. In Vrindavan there are many falls which are always pouring water, and the sound is so sweet that it covers the sound of the crickets. And because water flows all over, the forest always looks very green and beautiful. This is 5,000 years ago. But that same Vrindavan's there, we just have the material vision. It's actually still there, just as it's being described. So, as usual, I'm not paying attention to the time. Time's going much faster. So, this Pralambasura, he's a demon, but for the purposes of Krishna's Leela, he's going to take the form of a cowherd boy and infiltrate the group of cowherd boys. So, Krishna, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he understands what's going on. He knows past, present, and future. Sometimes he likes to play a little ignorant for the purpose of his pastimes, and he lets things happen. But this time, he understands that this cowherd boy that's come in, he's not one of us. He's a demon. So in this way, knowing this, Krishna assembled everyone into pairs. So he divided everyone into two groups, one on the side of Krishna, one on the side of Balaram. And while they were tending the cows, they were also playing this sporting pastime. But in the end, Krishna's side lost. So what the thing was the rule was that whoever's side lost had to carry the other side on their shoulders. That was the reward for winning, the impetus for the competition. So Krishna's side lost. So Krishna took one of the cowherd boys, and they all matched up. Well, Pralambasura ended up with Balaram on his shoulders. Balaram's whole purpose, Pralambasura's whole purpose was to kidnap both Krishna and Balaram and kill them both. So immediately, Pralambasura, he's still in the form of this cowherd boy, he's taking Krishna far away from the cowherd boys. But because Balaram he's so heavy, after a while, Prahlambasura is like, I'm getting really tired. I'm going to have to assume my real original form, because this Balaram is more than I anticipated. So now this demon is expanding all the way up into the clouds, and Balaram's on top of him, and he's thinking, this is astonishing that this coward boy, he's changing in every way. He's becoming so big, and then through this process, Balaram realizes, this is a demon. This is a demon that's come to kill Krishna and I. So at that point, Krishna just hits him in the head. Balaram, thank you. Balaram hits him in the head, and the demon falls down, blood coming out of his mouth. He's dead. Now the coward boys from the distance, they're seeing what's going on. They come rushing over and congratulate Balaram, saying words like, well done, congratulating him. Sadhu. So these things are going on. There's another pastime, because we're running out of time now. Devivida, the gorilla. Somehow there's no R in Devivida. They didn't know how to spell it? So that didn't get edited? R didn't get edited? So you're named after a gorilla? Well, it must be the name of... Bring it up, right? Well, I'm still very confused after all these years of friendship, and but maybe we'll discuss later. But anyway, to give you this pastime of Lord Balarama. So Balaram, he didn't want to be involved in the Battle of Kurukshetra. He left. He didn't want to see all this going on. So he went on pilgrimage to all the holy places. So at that time, Lord Balarama was in this other place, and he was enjoying. But then all of a sudden, this gorilla comes along and discovers Balaram, and he's attracted to Balaram, his amazing features. But this gorilla has this practice of going around wherever he goes. He's just creating havoc. He's just urinating on sacrificial arenas, and he's throwing stool, and he's he was out in the ocean. He's so powerful. He was making waves and flooding the land. Anyway, he comes to meet Balaram, and Balaram had some Varuni that he was drinking. And he was with other people. They were drinking. But Devivida was a little envious of all that. So he started tugging on Balaram's clothes and kind of harassing Balaram. And he took the pot of Varuni and started drinking it himself. So now they're both intoxicated. And he becomes more and more offensive to Balaram. Finally, Balaram gets angry, which isn't hard for Balaram to do. And they begin fighting. So this Devivida, the gorilla, he's pulling up these trees to fight with Balaram. And he's taking all the branches and leaves off, and he's making his own clubs out of these oak trees. And Balaram has his own club. So every time Devivida comes with his to strike Balaram, he smashes the tree into splinters. So the gorilla goes back, uproots another tree, strips it of branches, and comes back to Balaram, and he smashes it into splinters again. And it's just happening over and over again until the whole forest is cleared of trees. No more weapons in the shape of trees, so now he starts to get boulders. Same thing, he's throwing these boulders and trying to hit Balaram, and he's smashing them again with the end of powder and little pieces of gravel with his club. This is tumultuous fights going on, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, he's Devivita is killed by Balarama. Hits him in the collarbone. Devastating blow. He's finished, laid out. And he's congratulated. So in this way, we are remembering Krishna, remembering Balaram, their activities, superhuman. This is what you would actually expect. People don't think about it. It's hard enough for them to imagine that there's a supreme person that's got potencies and strength and intelligence that's far, far beyond their imagination. And to think that a person has that is too difficult. If God's a person, he must be like me, he must be limited. But then he hears these pastimes of the Lord, and he just can't figure it out, can't accept it. But by hearing and chanting, one becomes the highest devotee. Yoginam api sarvesham, Bhagavad Gita 6:47. By hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna, you can become the highest yogi of all. Man manabhava mad bhakto, surely you will come to me at the end of this life. And in this way, by giving up all varieties of religion, sarva dharman priyagja mamikam sharanam braja, 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, giving up all varieties of religion and surrendering to Krishna, hearing and chanting his glories constantly at the time of death. After all that practice, certainly you'll remember Krishna and go back to him wherever Krishna is. If it's Godhead or somewhere else, it's Vrindavan, because wherever Krishna is, that's Vrindavan. So I'll end here. Is there any questions or comments? Dravida Prabhu?
I was just thinking of a purport in the chapter 13 of the Madhya Lila, which describes Lord Chaitanya's pastimes of Rath Yatra. And then at the end there, he's in the mood of Radharani, and he's calling out to Krishna, to Jagannath, and it's something like, because the esoteric meaning of the Rath Yatra, as we know, is the gopis bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan from Kurukshetra when they met. You know, that with their love, they're drawing him back with the ropes of the love. So anyway, because it pertains exactly to what you just said at the end there, and that is that I think Lord Chaitanya in the mood of Radharani says, my mind is Vrindavan, and I know you like to stay there. So won't you please come back to Vrindavan, something like that. And then in the purport, Prabhupada says that one who is always thinking of Krishna is actually dwelling in Vrindavan, because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. The original Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Even when he goes to Dwarka, that's an expansion. You know, that's expansion. So when I worked on the Chaitanya Charitamrita in 1995 or so, that particular purport had been lost in the original editing of the CC. Some of you may not know, in 1975 there was a marathon. Prabhupada told the devotees, because the books had gotten backed up, the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita had been finished and it wasn't printed. And the fifth canon also wasn't printed. Prabhupada was very upset about that. What's the point of me writing these books if they don't get printed? And I was in the middle of that because I was part of the press. So they came to consolidate the whole press in Los Angeles. It had been partly in New York and LA, and we all joined it. And then there's this famous morning walk where Ramaswamy and Radha Ballabha, the two main managers of the press, they said, Prabhupada, we can do 2 books every month. We had done 4 books in a whole year back when we were working in Brooklyn. So this was a big increase, 2 books a month, very quick. So Prabhupada, he was on a morning walk on the beach, Venice Beach. He puts his cane in the sand and he says, you have to finish all 17 books in 2 months. And immediately Rama said, that's impossible. That's impossible, Prabhupada. Prabhupada looked at him. Impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And that rang out in the whole ISKCON world. and Rama said, how are we going to do this? And so somehow they said, okay, Prabhupada, we can do it if we have this. And so that amazing, production, I had a great, good fortune of being part of that. And we actually did 17 books in 2 months. But to do 17 books in 2 months, there was a lot of rushing, especially the editing. So this particular purport was written, had been somehow written on the back of a sheet of manuscript paper. And so it wasn't noticed by the composer, it was left out of the first book. So when I noticed that, I restored it. But it just reminded me of that, how we can always live in Vrindavan by always remembering Krishna. That's the idea, because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. And Prabhupada said that when he's in New York. He said, I'm sitting here by 2nd Avenue, and so forth, but I'm not really here. I'm really in Vrindavan, because my mind is in Vrindavan, my heart is in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada took Vrindavan all over the world by Krishna, with the Krishna book and with his own thing. So that's why you can... This whole temple has the New Govardhan mood of Vrindavan. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that became a very, very well-known quote. Yes. Impossible is a word in the fool's dictionary. Especially... A lot of devotees do the impossible, like distribute 100 books in a day. Right, some of those marathons. Well, when you think about the total number of books that have been distributed also since 1966 or 7, over 500 million books. 500 million books. That's 500 million, right? That's right. 500 million books. And still... Yeah, they go from one to the next. But especially with regards to Krishna and Balaram, nothing is impossible. That is a word in a fool's dictionary. They can grab 2 hooves of an ass demon with one hand, if they want to. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Are there any announcements? We have a festival coming up next Wednesday. Next Sunday, Giriraj Swami will be here. So, you can hear from a real authority. Gotta make sure I don't hit myself. And then next Wednesday is the actual celebration of Balaram Purnima. It's generally the same time frame as a Sunday feast, from 5 or 5:30 to 8 or 8:30. But it's going to be all centered around Balaram. There'll be decorations. If you want to volunteer to decorate the temple, if you want to come the day before, string garlands. On Tuesday, Wednesday will be the day. Something to look forward to. The feast is sponsored? Well, the feast is sponsored today. So you will not be required to take or buy a ticket. You can just put your donation in the hundi.
Please take some home. It doesn't look like we have.
Take some prasad home?
Yeah.
Okay. Tomorrow's lunch is on us as well.